Marcus Thompson had always been an early riser. At 45, the tech billionaire turned rancher found solace in the quiet hours before dawn, when the Montana sky stretched endlessly above his sprawling thousand-acre property. He'd built his fortune in Silicon Valley, but after selling his company for $8 billion, he traded his corner office for wide-open spaces and honest work. The locals in Clearwater County still whispered about the city slicker who'd bought the old Henderson Ranch, but Marcus had earned their grudging respect through 3 years of hard work and fair dealing. This particular morning, as he sipped his black coffee on the wraparound porch, something caught his eye near the eastern pasture. A small figure was moving through his apple orchard with deliberate purpose, filling what appeared to be a worn canvas bag. Marcus set down his mug and reached for the binoculars he kept on the side table. Through the lenses, he could make out a girl, maybe 16 or 17, carefully selecting fruit from his trees. She moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this before, checking each apple before placing it in her bag. Most ranchers would have immediately called the sheriff or confronted the trespasser directly. Marcus had dealt with his share of problems during his early days on the ranch, from cattle rustlers to vandals who thought the rich newcomer was an easy target. But something about this girl's methodical approach intrigued him. She wasn't grabbing fruit randomly or causing damage to his trees. Instead, she seemed to be following some internal criteria, occasionally rejecting apples that looked perfectly good to his untrained eye. Marcus had built his fortune by observing patterns others missed, by seeing opportunities where others saw only problems. His instincts told him there was more to this story than simple theft. He made a mental note of the girl's description: average height, auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, wearing faded jeans and a flannel shirt that had seen better days. Her clothes were clean but well worn, the kind of garments that spoke of careful maintenance rather than regular replacement. Instead of confronting her immediately, Marcus decided to wait and watch. He'd learned patience during his years in business, understanding that sometimes the best strategy was to gather information before taking action. He pulled out his phone and took a few discreet photos, not for evidence but to help him remember details later. The girl filled her bag methodically, working her way through one section of the orchard before moving to the next. When she finished, she didn't run or sneak away like a typical thief. Instead, she carefully closed the bag and walked calmly toward the property line, following a path that suggested she was familiar with the layout of his land. Marcus watched until she disappeared into the tree line that bordered his property. Then he finished his coffee and headed out to examine the orchard himself. The inspection revealed something interesting. The girl had been selective, taking only the ripest fruit while leaving the rest undisturbed. More importantly, she'd been careful not to damage any branches or leave any mess behind. This wasn't the work of a vandal or someone looking to cause trouble. This was someone who understood and respected the land, even while taking from it. Marcus had grown up poor in rural Texas, the son of a single mother who'd worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. He remembered the shame of needing help, the careful pride that came with taking only what was absolutely necessary. Something about this girl's behavior reminded him of those difficult years, of the quiet desperation that drove good people to make hard choices. He decided to learn more about his mysterious visitor before taking any action. That afternoon, he drove into town to Casey's General Store, the unofficial information hub of Clearwater County. Betty Martinez, the store owner, had been running the place for 30 years and knew everyone within a 50-mile radius. If there was a story behind the girl in his orchard, Betty would know it. Marcus found Betty restocking the candy aisle, her silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. She looked up as he approached, her weathered face breaking into a genuine smile. Betty had been one of the first locals to welcome him to the community, treating him like a neighbor rather than a curiosity. Their friendship had developed over shared cups of coffee and lengthy discussions about local politics and weather patterns. After exchanging pleasantries about the unusually dry summer and the prospects for the upcoming harvest season, Marcus casually mentioned his morning observation. He described the girl without making it sound like an accusation, framing it as curiosity about someone who clearly knew his property well. Betty's expression shifted from casual interest to concern as he provided more details about the girl's appearance and behavior. Betty glanced around the store to make sure they were alone, then leaned closer. Her voice dropped to a confidential whisper as she began to share what she knew. The girl was Emma Rodriguez, a senior at Clearwater High School who lived with her grandmother about 2 miles from Marcus's property. Emma's situation was complicated and heartbreaking, the kind of story that made Marcus grateful for his own good fortune, while highlighting the arbitrary nature of life's challenges. Emma's parents had died in a car accident when she was 14, leaving her in the care of her paternal grandmother, Rosa Rodriguez. Rosa had been a pillar of the community for decades, raising 5 children of her own while working as a seamstress and occasional housekeeper. She'd taken Emma in without hesitation, despite being in her 70s and living on a fixed income that barely covered her own needs. The tragedy had compounded over the past year when Rosa was diagnosed with diabetes. The medication costs were straining their already tight budget, and Rosa's condition sometimes left her unable to work. Emma had taken on part-time jobs to help with expenses, but finding work as a teenager in a small rural community was challenging. She worked weekends at the local diner and picked up odd jobs wherever she could find them. Betty's voice carried both admiration and sadness as she explained Emma's situation. The girl was an honor student with dreams of attending college, but she was struggling to balance her academic responsibilities with the need to support her grandmother. Emma had applied for scholarships and financial aid, but the process was complicated and uncertain. Meanwhile, she was doing everything she could to keep their household running while maintaining her grades. The apple theft, Betty explained, wasn't malicious. Rosa had always been proud of her ability to provide for her family, and she'd taught Emma the value of hard work and self-reliance. But pride could be a burden when circumstances became desperate. Emma had been taking the apples to supplement their diet and occasionally selling them to neighbors to help with grocery money. It was a small act of survival rather than greed. Marcus listened to Betty's explanation with growing understanding and respect. He'd built his fortune through a combination of intelligence, hard work, and fortunate timing, but he'd never forgotten the precarious nature of financial stability, especially for families without safety nets. Emma's situation reminded him of his own mother's struggles, of the quiet heroism required to maintain dignity while fighting for survival. As he drove back to his ranch, Marcus found himself thinking about the girl's careful selection of fruit and her respectful treatment of his property. Even in her desperation, she'd maintained standards and ethics that spoke well of her character. This wasn't a criminal situation requiring punishment. It was a community challenge that required understanding and possibly assistance. That evening, Marcus sat on his porch again, this time with his laptop and a cup of whiskey. He'd made his fortune by identifying problems and creating solutions, and Emma's situation presented both a problem and an opportunity. He began researching college scholarship programs, local community resources, and potential employment opportunities for teenagers in the area. The next morning, Marcus was at his usual post when Emma appeared in his orchard. This time he was ready. Instead of watching from a distance, he walked down to meet her, moving slowly and openly so as not to startle her. Emma froze when she saw him approaching, her face flushing with embarrassment and fear. The canvas bag in her hand was half full of apples. Marcus stopped about 10 feet away, his hands visible and his posture non-threatening. He'd learned the importance of body language during his years in high-stakes business negotiations. Emma looked ready to run, but something in his calm demeanor seemed to convince her to stay. Marcus introduced himself simply, without mentioning his wealth or business background. He told her he was the owner of the ranch and that he'd noticed her visiting his orchard. Emma's first instinct was to apologize and offer to return the apples, but Marcus held up a hand to stop her. Instead, he asked her about her selection process, genuinely curious about how she determined which fruit to take. Emma's surprise at the question was evident, but she began to explain her grandmother's teachings about choosing ripe fruit and avoiding waste. As they talked, Marcus was impressed by Emma's knowledge and her obvious respect for the land. She spoke about the trees with the expertise of someone who'd been raised around agriculture, discussing soil conditions and weather patterns with surprising sophistication. It became clear that her theft wasn't random or thoughtless. It was informed by genuine understanding and necessity. When Emma finished her explanation, Marcus made a proposal that surprised them both. Instead of calling the sheriff or demanding restitution, he offered Emma a job. His ranch produced far more fruit than he could use or sell locally, and much of it went to waste each season. He needed someone with her knowledge and work ethic to help manage the harvest and find productive uses for the surplus. Emma's initial reaction was skepticism. She'd grown up in a community where wealthy outsiders sometimes made promises they didn't keep, and she'd learned to be cautious about offers that seemed too good to be true. But Marcus's straightforward manner and obvious sincerity gradually convinced her that his offer was genuine. They agreed to meet the following weekend to discuss the details. Marcus spent the intervening days researching Emma's background more thoroughly. He spoke with her teachers at Clearwater High, who confirmed Betty's assessment of her character and academic performance. Emma was ranked third in her class despite her family responsibilities, and her teachers consistently praised her work ethic and leadership abilities. She was exactly the kind of person Marcus had hoped to find when he decided to invest in his new community. The weekend meeting took place in Marcus's kitchen, with Emma accompanied by her grandmother Rosa. Marcus had prepared carefully for this conversation, understanding that he needed to earn Rosa's trust before Emma could accept his help. He'd asked Betty to join them, knowing that her presence would provide credibility and comfort for the Rodriguez family. Rosa Rodriguez was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She'd raised 6 children through decades of economic uncertainty, and she'd developed strong instincts about people and their motivations. Marcus could see where Emma had learned her combination of pride and pragmatism. Rosa listened politely as Marcus outlined his proposal, but her expression remained carefully neutral. Marcus offered Emma a part-time position managing his orchard and vegetable gardens. The job would provide steady income while allowing her to maintain her school schedule and help with her grandmother's care. More importantly, it would give her valuable experience in agricultural management and business operations. Marcus explained that he was looking for someone to help him expand his farming operations and possibly develop a small business around local produce sales. The position came with additional benefits that Marcus presented carefully, aware that Rosa's pride might make her suspicious of charity disguised as employment. Emma would have access to fresh produce for her family's use, and Marcus would help her navigate the college application process and scholarship opportunities. He'd also arranged for Rosa to receive assistance with her medical expenses, through a local charitable foundation he'd quietly established. Rosa's questions were thorough and pointed. She wanted to understand exactly what Emma's responsibilities would be, how the work would be structured, and what expectations Marcus had for her granddaughter's performance. Marcus answered honestly, explaining that he was still learning about ranching and that Emma's knowledge would be valuable in developing his agricultural operations. The conversation lasted nearly 3 hours, with Rosa gradually warming to Marcus's proposal. Emma remained quiet through most of the discussion, occasionally glancing between her grandmother and Marcus with a mixture of hope and disbelief. Finally, Rosa asked for time to consider the offer, and Marcus agreed to give them a week to decide. During that week, Marcus continued his research into Emma's situation and began planning the expansion of his agricultural operations. He contacted agricultural extension services, researched sustainable farming practices, and began developing a business plan for a small local produce operation. His approach was methodical and thorough, the same systematic thinking that had made him successful in technology. Emma and Rosa spent the week discussing the offer and its implications. For Emma, the job represented more than just income. It was an opportunity to gain experience and potentially find a path toward her college goals. For Rosa, it was a chance to ensure her granddaughter's future while maintaining the family's dignity and independence. Betty Martinez served as an informal mediator during this period, helping both families understand each other's perspectives and concerns. She'd known Rosa for decades and had quickly grown to respect Marcus's character and intentions. Her involvement helped bridge the gap between the wealthy newcomer and the proud local family. The following weekend, Emma and Rosa returned to Marcus's ranch with their decision. They accepted his offer with gratitude and a clear understanding of the responsibilities involved. Marcus was pleased by their acceptance, but he was also aware that the real work was just beginning. Creating a successful working relationship would require patience, understanding, and mutual respect. Emma's first day of work was a revelation for both of them. She arrived early, dressed for outdoor labor, and carrying a notebook filled with observations about the property. Marcus had prepared a list of tasks and goals, but Emma's insights immediately changed his approach. She pointed out problems he'd missed and suggested improvements that demonstrated her deep understanding of agricultural principles. Working together, they developed a comprehensive plan for managing the ranch's agricultural operations. Emma would be responsible for the day-to-day management of the orchard and vegetable gardens, while Marcus handled the business and financial aspects. They agreed to meet weekly to review progress and adjust their strategies as needed. The arrangement quickly proved beneficial for both parties. Emma's income helped stabilize her grandmother's medical situation, while providing her with valuable work experience. Marcus gained a knowledgeable partner who shared his commitment to sustainable and ethical farming practices. More importantly, they developed a working relationship based on mutual respect and shared goals. Emma's academic performance actually improved once her family's financial situation stabilized. With the stress of immediate survival reduced, she could focus more fully on her studies and college preparations. Marcus provided guidance and support for her scholarship applications, sharing his experience with navigating complex bureaucratic processes. The ranch's agricultural operations flourished under Emma's management. She implemented innovative techniques she'd learned from her grandmother and researched new approaches through agricultural extension programs. Marcus provided the financial resources and business expertise needed to expand and optimize their operations. By the end of Emma's first semester working for Marcus, their small produce operation was generating significant income while providing fresh, locally grown food to the community. Emma had gained practical experience in business management, agricultural science, and leadership. Marcus had found a trusted partner who shared his vision for sustainable rural development. Emma's success at the ranch attracted attention from college admissions officers and scholarship committees. Her combination of academic excellence, practical experience, and community involvement made her an attractive candidate for multiple programs. Marcus provided references and guidance throughout the application process, helping Emma present her experiences in the most compelling way possible. The relationship between Marcus and the Rodriguez family had evolved from employer and employee to something resembling an extended family. Marcus often joined them for Sunday dinners, sharing stories about his business experiences and learning about local history and culture. Rosa treated him like an adopted son, while Emma looked to him as a mentor and friend. As Emma's senior year progressed, she received acceptance letters from several prestigious universities, along with scholarship offers that would cover most of her expenses. The success was gratifying, but it also raised questions about the future of their partnership. Emma would be leaving for college in the fall, and Marcus needed to decide how to continue the ranch's agricultural operations. Marcus's solution was characteristically thoughtful and forward-looking. He established a scholarship fund in Emma's name, designed to help other local students pursue higher education while gaining practical work experience. Emma would serve as the program's first coordinator, helping to identify and mentor future recipients while completing her own education. The scholarship program would provide summer employment and mentorship opportunities for local students, allowing them to gain valuable experience while contributing to the ranch's operations. Marcus saw it as an investment in the community's future, creating a pipeline of educated and experienced young people who could contribute to local economic development. Emma's final months at the ranch were spent developing the scholarship program and training her replacement. She documented all of her innovations and improvements, creating a comprehensive guide for future managers. Marcus was impressed by her professionalism and dedication, qualities that would serve her well in whatever career she chose to pursue. The day Emma left for college was emotional for everyone involved. Rosa was proud of her granddaughter's achievements but sad to see her go. Marcus felt a mixture of satisfaction and loss, knowing that he'd helped launch a remarkable young woman toward a bright future while saying goodbye to an exceptional partner. Emma's success at college exceeded everyone's expectations. She excelled in her business and agricultural science courses, often drawing on her experience at the ranch to provide real-world context for theoretical concepts. Her professors were impressed by her practical knowledge and leadership abilities, and she quickly became involved in research projects and student organizations. During her breaks from college, Emma returned to the ranch to help with the scholarship program and assist with special projects. These visits allowed her to maintain her connection to the community while sharing her new knowledge and experiences. Marcus valued her continued involvement, both for her practical contributions and for the fresh perspectives she brought from her studies. The scholarship program grew rapidly, attracting applications from students throughout the region. Marcus expanded the ranch's operations to accommodate more participants, creating a diverse agricultural enterprise that included organic farming, sustainable livestock management, and renewable energy systems. Emma's initial vision had evolved into a comprehensive model for rural economic development. By her junior year, Emma had decided to pursue a career in agricultural development and rural economics. Her experience at the ranch had shown her the potential for innovative approaches to traditional farming, and she wanted to help other communities develop sustainable economic strategies. Marcus supported her career goals and began planning ways to expand their partnership beyond her graduation. Emma's senior thesis focused on the economic impact of the scholarship program and its model for rural development. Her research documented significant improvements in local economic indicators, including increased employment, higher property values, and greater community engagement. The work attracted attention from policymakers and development organizations interested in replicating the program in other rural areas. Upon graduation, Emma was offered positions with several prestigious organizations, including international development agencies and major agricultural corporations. However, she chose to return to Clearwater County to help Marcus expand their rural development model. Their partnership had evolved from employer and employee to collaborators in a shared vision for sustainable community development. Emma's homecoming was celebrated throughout the community. She'd proven that local kids could compete at the highest levels while maintaining their connection to their roots. Her success inspired other young people to pursue their dreams while considering how they might contribute to their community's future. Marcus and Emma's expanded partnership focused on developing a network of rural development programs across the region. They established training centers, provided technical assistance to other communities, and advocated for policies that supported rural economic development. Their work gained national attention and influenced federal programs designed to support rural communities. The success of their collaboration demonstrated the potential for partnerships between private investment and local knowledge to create sustainable economic development. Marcus's financial resources and business expertise, combined with Emma's deep understanding of rural communities and agricultural systems, had created a model that was both economically viable and socially beneficial. Years later, as Marcus reflected on the morning he'd first seen Emma in his orchard, he marveled at the journey they'd shared. What had begun as a simple case of fruit theft had evolved into a partnership that had transformed both their lives and their community. Emma had grown from a desperate teenager into a nationally recognized expert in rural development, while Marcus had found his true calling in supporting the next generation of rural leaders. The story of Marcus and Emma became a local legend, told and retold in coffee shops and community meetings throughout the region. It demonstrated the power of looking beyond surface appearances to understand the deeper stories that shape people's lives. More importantly, it showed how individual acts of understanding and generosity could create lasting change that benefited entire communities. Emma's grandmother, Rosa, lived to see her granddaughter's success and the positive impact of the scholarship program. She often said that Marcus had seen something in Emma that even she had missed, recognizing not just her potential but her character. Rosa's pride in Emma's achievements was matched by her gratitude for Marcus's mentorship and support. The ranch continued to thrive under Emma's management, becoming a model for sustainable agriculture and rural development. Visitors from around the world came to study their methods and learn from their success. Emma took pride in showing them around the property, always beginning the tour at the apple orchard where her partnership with Marcus had begun. Marcus never forgot the lesson Emma had taught him about the importance of understanding the stories behind people's actions. He continued to approach problems with curiosity rather than judgment, looking for opportunities to help rather than reasons to punish. This approach had served him well in business, but it had proven even more valuable in building meaningful relationships and creating positive change. The final part of their story was still being written, as Emma and Marcus continued to expand their work and influence. They'd proven that partnerships based on mutual respect and shared values could overcome differences in background and circumstances. Their collaboration had created opportunities for hundreds of young people and had demonstrated the potential for rural communities to thrive in the modern economy. Looking back, Marcus often wondered what would have happened if he'd simply called the sheriff that first morning instead of choosing to observe and understand. The thought reminded him that every interaction was an opportunity to make a positive difference, and that the most important discoveries often came from the most unexpected encounters. Emma's theft of his apples had led to the discovery of her character, her potential, and ultimately, a partnership that had enriched both their lives immeasurably.